Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of More Than the Career Podcast, brought to you by Marketing Press. Today, our special guest is Dr. Steven Enriquez, and Dr. Steven Enriquez is the proprietor of Global Chiropractic here in Tempe, Arizona. I've known Steve for, 6-7 years now, and he's been my primary chiropractor. And he's just a super interesting guy. I was having some back problems and some just typical sports alignment issues with my spine and whatnot, and a personal trainer that I was using, Ron Zimmerman, his office was right next door to Steve, so he recommended I went over and saw Dr. Steve, and from there we've hit it off. And like I said, I've known Steve for about 6-7 years, and I know him pretty well, so this is a fun interview. We're going to talk a lot about what he does, how he stays healthy, a little bit of his work-life balance, because that's something that we always like to talk about here on More Than the Career Podcast. And then also some of the other interests. I know he's a Brazilian jiu-jitsu artist and just an all-around fitness nut. And I think that one of the things that we really want to get into, the balance between being a fitness enthusiast and being an athlete. So here's my interview with Dr. Steven Enriquez of Global Chiropractic, and I hope you enjoy it. Welcome. Hey everyone, welcome to More Than a Career Podcast. I have my guest here, Dr. Steven Enriquez from Global Chiropractic in Tempe. And like I said in the intro, Dr. Steve's been my chiropractor for about 6 or 7 years now. And he's really kept me tuned up in, where I can compete and where I can stay as healthy as I possibly can when I choose to. I will put that disclaimer in there. And so Dr. Steve, thanks for being on the show.
Hey man, thanks for having me. And thanks everyone that's listening. I appreciate you guys taking the time out, and hopefully me and Greg can work through some stuff and have a lot of fun, and hopefully you guys have fun. That's the most important part, right?
I don't doubt that we're not going to have fun. I didn't start this not to have fun. So
no, man.
So tell us a little bit about your practice.
So it started off like this. It started off like, I was really big into pain and really big onto, chiropractic's about helping people with pain. But as I progressed through chiropractic, and I've been here for now almost 10 years, and as I progressed, I found out it's a lot bigger than that. And the easiest way for me to describe my practice is it's like the best life hack you can. And I share this with a lot of my patients, and sometimes they don't understand or they don't know what actually a life hack is, but it's like, how can you cut through the learning curve and just make your body as healthy and think the best thoughts you can, and just kind of drop some of the interference that's typically expressed in our normal everyday life. So as a chiropractor, I'm sure that you see lots of different types of people come in, right? For lots of different reasons. I mean, and I'm sure that there are some people that chiropractic is perfect for, and then there's some that probably it's not so great for, for certain ailments. How do you kind of distinguish, how you can really be effective, and how, maybe this is somebody that needs a different type of treatment? Well, I'm open to all different types of treatment. I have some of my best friends are medical doctors, and I have really good network of surgeons and imaging companies. And so the biggest thing for me is what does the person want to accomplish? So now, as I've gone through practice, I realize, look, people don't come to me necessarily for pain. All right, they're coming to me because the pain is interfering with the way they're doing things in life, interfering with the way they're thinking, the way they're sleeping. They basically, by the time they come to see me, because they've gone through all the other healthcare professionals, it's basically they're limiting, their body is limiting their functional ability, and what they want to do when they come to see me is they're like, hey man, I've tried all the rest. Right. What can you do to assist me, and can you help solve my problem?
So sometimes you're like the last line of relief, right?
Yeah, it's like
I have no other hope. Save me.
Let's try this thing out, this chiropractic thing. Yeah.
Right. Do you have to? I don't want to talk too much about the practice because I want to get into like who you are and what makes you tick. But I find this really interesting. Do you find that you have some people who come to you and you have to debunk, like, it's not voodoo, or it's not like weird, or it's not, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's pretty cool that you mentioned that. But at first I did because I was holding that in myself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
It's like, if you are like conscious of that, you attract that, man. That's the law of attraction. that word gets thrown around a lot and all this kind of stuff. But it's kind of, I heard this analogy because I listened to tons of audiobooks. I mean, if I looked at my February log, it's like 60 hours in already, and it's only the 10th, right?
Jeez.
And so I don't know what sustains that drive to listen to that stuff. But there was a really good analogy, and it said, if you have two guitars in the room, and I know, Greg, you're a guitar player, right?
Yep.
I pluck the E string, and it sends vibrations throughout the room, and it's gonna hit the other E string, and it's gonna make that chord or that chord strum as well, right? So it's kind of like that. If you have it in you and you're worried about it, you will attract it, and so then you'll start to have patients or customers, right? If you own that, they're gonna come to you with that to teach you a lesson. And so as my practice kind of grew and as I got busier and as I started understanding it's a lot has to do with you as the practitioner. I kind of just started letting that go because it doesn't really matter. And then as you let that go and you own that, then people come to you with like for you and what you help them out with. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that actually makes perfect sense. So that's more like that. I totally hear what you're saying. It's like the almost like I don't want to say like self-esteem or inadequacy, but it's like one of those things like I'm going to put this out there so that I don't have to deal with it as an objection later.
Right.
When really it's like, who the hell cares? I'm here to help you. And if I help you in a safe, natural type of way, who wins? We all win.
Right, absolutely. It's like if you drop coffee on your shirt, right, in the morning when you first get up and you drop coffee and get into the office and stuff, and you're worried about that coffee, right? If you didn't tell anybody, you didn't even think about it, no one would say anything. But, if you worried about it being there, every time you talk to somebody, that insecurity is going to brush off and be like, what happened? How do you have that coffee or that mustard stain on you? It's kind of like it comes out.
Yeah, it's like nerves beget nerves. It's just like, they just compound. That's pretty interesting.
To say something about it. You're waiting.
Awesome. That's awesome. So outside of being a chiropractor, I know you're married with three beautiful girls. Another one on the way, correct?
Fourth one on the way, yeah.
Fourth one on the way. You and Macy, congratulations. And
Thank you.
But I know that you and I connected originally because I was working out with Ron Zimmerman right next door, and there was some stuff going on with me. And then we connected on a bunch of different levels, but mostly on fitness and nutrition and on staying healthy. So what do you do outside of a chiropractor in like your general life? Like what other things are you into?
So one of the biggest things, like I mentioned, I listen to books.
Yep.
I don't sit down and read a ton, but all that I do read, I love listening to books. And I think that's really crucial in like what you're learning at the time. I don't watch TV, so we have a TV in the house, but it's never on. And like I said, I was looking at my Audible account the other day, and I was like 60 hours into February. I was like, oh my gosh, right? But some of the things that I'm really big into is fitness, and it started off as a different aspect. I started like doing fitness and eating healthy and all that stuff so I could look good. So I was really clung to that image of who I thought Steve or Dr. Steve was, right? So all the exercise and all the eating right and all that stuff was geared towards like kind of promoting that image of who I thought I was.
Oh, vanity. It's like vanity.
Yeah, that's what it is. I mean, honestly, I can look back and I can say that that's what it is, and hopefully, like other people that are listening to can kind of identify with that. And that's one of the biggest things is can you own it? Can you look and you can search and see that you have some of these things? And the cool thing about it is it's not bad, it's not good, but when you look at it and you can see it, then you can start to kind of play with it and change with it and see what happens. And one of the biggest things I'm always like, try it on and see what it works like. Worst case scenario, you just go back to the image that you were trying to project and just keep going.
Yeah, right? It's like, I guess a stupid analogy would be like, you would never try on like a new style of clothes. You would never just buy a new style of clothes without trying it on first.
Yeah, absolutely.
See how you look and more importantly, how you feel and, going from there.
Right, yeah, and being authentic and being genuine, it always feels good. I guarantee you, even if you're doing something like it's going to get you in trouble or, people aren't going to like you, when you're genuine, you feel good. And because you're the one that you have to deal with 24/7, that little voice inside your head. And so now some of the stuff that I'm doing in terms of health and exercise and eating right and all that kind of stuff, it's geared towards, it's opening up space and time that I can listen to my audiobooks, and I'm eating not in terms to to get me to a certain destination, but in order to help fulfill or sustain that kind of that feeling and that presentness and stuff like that, creating that space.
Right. So what's your favorite type of physical? Are you a runner, or I mean,
I started getting into elliptical, right? So I'm listening to audiobooks, right? And first it started off like I got up extra early so I could exercise and spend some time doing that. But now it's kind of, I get up extra early so I can listen to audiobooks, and it just so happens I'm working out at the same time. So it's kind of shifted priorities, and as we all know, and you guys can relate to this. I know you can. It's that motion defines emotion, right? So once you start moving, you start to feel better. You know, those endorphins start kicking on, and then anything you attach to that. And so I'm listening to, you know, right now I'm listening to all sorts of different things, like, you know, the Power Now, Eckhart Tolle, stuff like that. It just really kind of opens up my mind and creates new possibilities. But if I found that if you attach some type of energetic vibe to that, I know it sounds kind of weird, but you guys all know, you know, if you're sitting on the couch watching TV, chances are you're not thinking about exercising, right? You're not motivated to exercise. You're actually dreading exercise. You're like, man, I'm so lazy. I really should get up and go exercise, but your physiology isn't coherent with that. They don't align.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You know, I like to do a lot of trail running lately. You know, like that's been my favorite thing. I work out with my trainer, do a lot of trail running, and I've found that when I have my best runs out on the trail, it's when I'm listening to podcasts versus listening to music, right? I'm a huge music fan, of course. I've always played and loved music. But to me, music is also sort of an escape, right?
Yes.
It's not always a stimulating thing, right?
Right.
So if I'm listening to like a couple of my favorite podcasts, you know, like Entrepreneur on Fire, John Lee Dumas, or Chris Brogan's The Owner's Mind, or Jay's Social Pros, or something like that. I'm running, and I'm actually, the funny thing is, I'm running, my mind is going, right? And my mind is, the wheels are really going, and my body is just kind of going along without me thinking about it.
Yeah, but you're there. You're there.
Right, but I'm there.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And I always say the hardest part of me exercising always is getting my shoes on.
Get your shoes on, man.
Right? Like get up, get dressed, get your shoes on. I know that if I can get my running shoes on, there's a good chance I'm going to go for a run.
Ooh, that's all there is to it.
You know, so.
And have you noticed that some of your best workouts are the workouts that you were trying to be negative and talk yourself out of it?
Yeah, totally.
Is that crazy?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, how does that make sense? You know?
Yeah, it's, your body wanted to go out and exercise, kind of like a horse. You know, like if you keep the horse and penned all the time, the horse is going to go nuts, right? You let it out, it goes crazy and stuff. Your body it literally wants to do it. It's like an animal; it wants to do it, and your mind tries to almost talk you out of it, and then it tries to talk you out of it, and then it tries to use negativity in order to motivate you to do something. Oh, I'm so fat. I'm so lazy. Man, you better get up and exercise. You're sitting on the couch, right? You know, it's like that.
I had a conversation about this last night with Christina, and my conversation isn't it crazy that, you know, a year ago when I fell out of shape because of injuries and all of that stuff, where I was like, you know what? I'm so out of shape. I'm too out of shape to go and work out. Like, I wanted to do a couple of different things. I was always intrigued by, like, Orange Theory Fitness, just because of I love cardio, the cardio part of it. But I would always say, I'm too out of shape to do that.
Yeah.
Like, how ridiculous is that? I'm too out of shape to do something to get me back in shape.
It doesn't make sense, man.
It's like I'm too broke. I'm so broke that I'm not going to get a job to go make money.
Yeah.
It's like, it makes no sense.
It doesn't make sense at all. And if you can acknowledge that, not necessarily, and the biggest thing is to not judge it, right? And if you can see it and acknowledge it and be like, okay, I could do now I can take some type of action. You know, I can sit here and kind of complain about things, and I know this won't change anything. Yeah. Or I could acknowledge that that's what's happening, and then I can, make some changes, and that's the biggest thing that I found with patients. And myself, and again, that's what I have to own myself in order to help any other people. It's like you have to own the gift in order to give it out. And when you give it out, it feels fantastic because it's like it overcame some of those things that all humanity, it's the human condition called life, right? And all experience these highs and lows. And if we can own those not maybe insecurities, or we can acknowledge those things that are happening, we can actually help other people out, but only if we're honest with ourselves.
Yeah, and it's like we are the only ones that can affect change in our lives.
Yep.
Right. Like I was just in New York, New Jersey for the last week, and a family situation came up where I found out like third hand about a situation that was going on that was really about me. Right.
Oh yeah.
And I had to go to the person. I'm like, why didn't you come and talk to me? I'm the only one that can affect change here.
Right. Yeah.
It's the same thing. It's just like you're the only one here that can, make the changes, positive or conversely negative. I mean, it's on you to do that stuff.
I'm thinking about this, and it's kind of our family dynamic, right? And sometimes families kind of gossip, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like a third-hand way to get somebody to do something instead of just telling them directly, right?
Yep.
And hurting their feelings, right? It's the good guy scenario, right? It's like, the good guy, has a girl that's a friend, and he does all the nice things. It's a coherent contract, right?
Right.
Right? So it's like this like unknown contract. It's covert contract. That's what I'm looking for. Covert contract. If I do enough nice things, she's going to want to go out with me, want to date me. She doesn't know anything about it. She just thinks it's friends, right? And then he's calling her at 2 o'clock in the morning drunk. How dare you? You're terrible.
Sure.
It's kind of like it comes out, comes out all over her kind of thing, right?
And also along that lines, like I always find out, like personally, when I get really out of whack and I'm disappointed with somebody or this and that, or that goes on, right?
Yeah.
Most of the time, more times than not, it's about my expectations,
yes.
my uncommunicated expectations about a situation that they don't even know about.
It's a covert contract that you have.
Yeah, and I've never heard anybody say it the way that you just said it, but it made perfect sense. It's like my expectations are out of whack.
Yes.
So that's why I am unhappy.
Yeah, and if you think about it, it's only because you judge you harder than anybody else, right? Absolutely. And so I wouldn't have done it like that. I'm Greg. I do it like this, and if someone would have did this to me, I would have done this for them. How dare they? You insert yourself in their shoes, but you don't have no idea what they're going through, and again, it just comes back down to you, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's interesting. So shifting things a little bit for a moment, like. So we talk about fitness, and I know like you're a martial artist, and you do the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, correct? Right?
Yes, yeah.
Jiu-Jitsu. So do you think that there's a big difference between somebody who's into fitness and somebody who's actually an athlete?
Yeah.
Like, is there like, are they one? They're not one and the same in my mind.
I wouldn't think so either. You mentioned this before, and I was trying to wrap my head around it. And what does that mean exactly? What is it? An athlete means, I guess, technically speaking, they're gifted, right? They have some God-given gifts, and they're just naturally good at endurance, super strong, super ripped up. I mean, we all had the friend that could eat McDonald's French fries and never work out, and they're just got a six-pack, 6% body fat, just veins all over the place. And, here, and this comes back down to comparison, right? You compare yourself to them, and you're like, well, I will get to their level if I eat, really chicken and vegetables, and I exercise 10 hours a week, just kill myself. And then that suffering starts to occur again, right? So it all comes back down at whatever topic we want to come back. It kind of comes back down to that same thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a comparative thing, right? Yeah. It's like, so, an athlete is sometimes I would assume that they're just naturally good at certain things. And somebody into fitness, what was the question again?
Is there an inherent difference?
Back to the same thing.
Is there an inherent difference between somebody who's into fitness and who's fit versus being an athlete?
Yeah. I would say so. I would say that just athletes are just naturally good at it. Yeah. That's into fitness, like all the qualities that come with being into fitness. I would say, it's kind of like, you like the preparation, you like the exercise, you like the discipline, and all that kind of stuff that kind of rolls into that.
Is it similar? Like, I can cook, but I'm not a chef.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So how did you get into martial arts?
So it's just something I always thought was cool. I always liked wrestling. Did
you wrestle in high school?
I wrestled in high school. I had an older brother, so I had to find out pretty fast what worked and what didn't, and the wrestling worked for me. And, I always wrestled as other older buddies and stuff like that. And so I just kind of got good at that. And, so then I got into martial arts. jiu-jitsu, because that's kind of an extension of wrestling. They go really well hand in hand. And so it just, it's kind of something that always sparked my interest. I got a black belt in a mixed kind of martial arts, kind of a karate. It's called Kaji Kembo. And then after I got my black belt, I really started studying jiu-jitsu exclusively.
So so you compete also, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
So knowing you're a pretty calm, energetic guy, right?
Yeah.
Not really somebody that I would consider like a fighter or somebody that's like mean-spirited. How do you get in there and just like, I'm going to rip this guy's head off? Is it just one of those things like in between the lines, like a different mentality?
Yeah, what I've noticed because I don't have to compete, right? Like, right. I have a practice, I have a family and stuff. I don't have to put it on the line and potentially embarrass myself, because that's what it's like. When you go into compete, you're nervous, not because you're going to lose. You're nervous to lose in front of all your family, in front of the school, in front of everyone else that you train with. And so I think that was one of the biggest motivations for me to do it. Like, hey, dude, put it on the line, not worry about what the other guy's doing, and just go into yourself. And then, hey, dude, you did the training. Let's put it on the line and see what happens. It's just an experiment.
So it's a lot like business if you think about it. It's just like, I prepare for meetings or I pitch proposals and things like that. I'm just like, look, I did all my research. I'm prepared.
Yeah.
It's going to work one way or the other. But regardless, the only thing that I can control is my preparedness and what I do prior to.
Yeah. Pretty much. And even that, you prepare. But if you are just like let go of all your attachments and just be present and whatever comes out organically, dude, you could prepare all day long and then blow it because, dude, you were just thinking too much. You know what I mean? And that's what, as I compete in jiu-jitsu, that's what happens. You literally don't have time to think. It's just reaction and being open and let things go and just move slow.
So that's interesting because I always thought of like that type of sports, or I never wrestled. I played basketball, and those 2 seasons in high school competed with one another. I couldn't do both. So it was. Plus, I was actually a tiny kid in high school. I was like one of the smallest ones in my grade. Bizarre, right? Anyway, that's a whole nother talk show, I'm sure. But I always consider like wrestling and like martial arts more as like a chess match. But I guess it's really not. There's not even that much time to strategize and to think. It's more reactive and then staying proactive as, some things are coming at you.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's the best way, I would say, to get present. It's real.
There's nothing like getting present with a nice kick to the head, right?
Or trying to choke you or something. You know what I mean? It's like getting to that space, It's like you can't think of anything else when that's occurring.
That's super, super interesting. So if you had to give somebody one tip to find their happiness or find their health, what would one tip be?
Oh man, that's hard. I was thinking about this, right? It's the same concept, right? I was thinking about preparing when I got here, and I was thinking about, what should I say? Could this happen? And then as I started hearing myself or seeing myself say that, it's like it doesn't matter. Whatever happens during the time, right? Whatever comes up is what's going to happen, right? So I would say that'd be the biggest thing. I'd say watch what you're thinking, because it really doesn't matter what you think. If you think about it, your body will react. Your body believes everything you think at face value. Okay, so from the neck up, you can have thoughts, and your body is the duplicator of thoughts. It can change thoughts into emotions, into feelings, and that will dictate then how you think, right? So I can worry about what's going to happen next week, right? And we're sitting right here talking on this conversation. I can worry about what's going to happen next week. I have bills to pay. I have X, Y, and Z. Right. This could happen, couldn't happen. And yet, in this present moment, my body can literally feel terrible, stressed, because my body can only deal with what's happening right now. But my mind can jump back and forth between past and future, and my body's stuck here in the present.
That's pretty interesting. So, how about since you're a fitness and wellness expert here, how about one tip if somebody needed to get back in shape from kind of living a sedentary or a lazy lifestyle? Where would you would suggest somebody start?
This is cool, man. This is cool because it comes from the mindset, okay? And the biggest thing is to not beat yourself up. Hey, you're here where you're at right now. don't beat yourself up. I'm such a lazy pig. I can't believe this. I've always wanted this, the X, Y, and Z. And that's again, coming up with expectations for yourself, just like you have for other people. See, we can see in other people, but we have in ourselves, we don't really recognize it. There's this veil that we can't see the lies that we tell ourselves. So I would say, don't beat yourself up. Use that. You can hear when you're complaining out to other people.
Sure.
Right? That's easy. And people can, hey man, what are you complaining for? Right? And they can stop you. But when you complain to yourself, no one else hears it. And that's what's the most detrimental. You don't even notice that you're complaining to yourself most of the time because it's so common that you don't see it. And I would say, don't beat yourself up. So from wherever you are is where you are. Don't say anything about it, right? And when you see yourself starting to talk about it, don't judge it as bad or good, but it's like, okay, well, what can I do right now? I can put my running shoes on. Let's put my running shoes on. Instead of sitting there and beating yourself up, put your running shoes on, or put your workout clothes on, or just start action. So that's the biggest thing.
Isn't that sort of like the Nike "Just Do It"?
Just do it. Yeah, yeah.
Million. I mean, hopefully they're listening and they sue me. I don't know, but you know what I mean. But it's just like, how simple is that? Right?
It's
like action.
Logically we know it, but when we have a feeling, logic gets thrown out the window. Do you know this? So like when you're super mad, you do things stupid, like you punch a hole in the wall. Logically, you know it's not the right thing to do. But when you have a feeling, you have emotions, your frontal cortex turns off. Your logical brain does not work. So
is that sort of like the seeing red theory? Like
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I was talking to my wife about this, and we had coffee this morning. And she goes, I was listening to this book, and it said, like, when you're mad, you're clinically insane, right? Because I go, oh, that makes sense, because your logic gets thrown out the window. I mean, think back about, I know everyone here listening to the podcast can definitely look back at like a couple days ago, maybe this morning, right? And look at how they were mad at themselves or somebody else, and like, they did things that was like, man, totally non-congruent with what they normally would do.
Yeah, and it's interesting when you I find, like, because I've been in that place, right? I was a knucklehead years ago and broke my hand punching a sign because of X, Y, Z, and my friends love to bust my chops about it still. But it's like the most difficult thing is when you get to that point is then all the wreckage that happens, beating yourself up about doing it. Yeah. So that you stay in like this whole terrible mental state, which affects, like we're talking about, which affects the physical state, which then affects relationships and spiritual state and all of that. And it's like,
absolutely.
Next thing you know,
the snowball effect. Yeah.
Next thing you know, you're the biggest piece of garbage in the world, and why would anybody want to be your friend?
Right. Yeah. You make it right. You make it so.
Yeah, absolutely.
You make it so. And to escape it. Some people drink, and some people eat food, and they lash out at other people to make it be like, whoa, I knew I was right. I knew I was a piece of crap. Look, if I look at my environment, it totally correlates to what I was thinking, right?
Right.
And that's how The Secret, people like, oh, everywhere else is secret. That's how really The Secret works. The law of attraction is like, it all comes from you, but it comes with actions too. That's where this movie like really missed it, and it sounds so cool, and it's really marketable if you're like, hey, dude, just sit and think all the time and you'll be a millionaire, right? And it's not the case. There's action. Action has to go with it, or else nothing occurs because your body literally doesn't believe you. You have to take.
Right. That makes perfect sense. Huh? Interesting. So that's awesome. Actually, I could go on and on and on about this.
Well, I talk about this like nonstop. It was like 3 or 4 weeks ago. Like I would have to say it was like a spiritual awakening where logically I knew all these concepts, right? I loved it. I just dove into it. I always did the research and stuff. And I don't know why I did. I just did. And it wasn't until like 3 or 4 weeks ago where they really aligned, where the feeling, my body lined up with the logic side of my brain. So like spirit, and you call it spirit, logic, all that stuff just kind of boom. And then like, it's the difference between seeing a quote and like, oh, that's a cute quote. You turn the page and you forget the quote.
Right.
It's not cute anymore, right? Or seeing a quote and it's like, dude, that totally resonates. I know what that guy was thinking when he wrote that because I feel the same way.
And that's something I want to live.
Yeah, and it just has a deeper resonation with you than just like, oh, it's cute. I turn the page and it's over. Right? I mean, I wrote a little thing on Facebook for my practice, and it's like, you look at clothes on a hanger, it looks cute. The outfit looks cute, but you don't know until you try it on. And until you try it on, you live that experience, then you can identify with a quote. It's another one. I listened to a guy the other day. It's like, you can orange. We all know what an orange tastes like, looks like, smells like, and then stuff like that. So you couldn't describe it enough to somebody what an orange tastes like and how you chew it and it bursts in your mouth and sweet and sour and all that kind of stuff until they actually ate the orange themselves, right? You couldn't use any words to identify what an orange really tastes like or looks like, right? Until they actually try it themselves. And that's the biggest thing. Living the experience and then identifying with those words and the pointers for those words.
That's awesome. It's awesome how it all comes full circle. And you're like going back to the business, how, you know, your practice, you know, is not the standard or the atypical, you know, it's not the typical chiropractic practice, you know, because you do talk a lot about this stuff and you talk a lot about fitness and wellness and nutrition. I mean, you talk a lot of nutrition where it's more like you know, I've always considered your practice like a wellness type of thing, not just, you know, chiropractic. I mean, of course, you know, you do what you do with the joints and, you know, to get them aligned, but at the same time, it's like, hey, have you tried stretching or running or this type of physical therapy? And it's interesting how your practice encompasses all of actually what's you know, as a person. Absolutely.
It's crazy. It's when patients come in, because I've had almost every joint injury you can imagine. And one of the reasons why I would say that I'm skilled and get good results with fixing those is because I had to do it myself. I had to fix myself. And I knew I hacked my way through every single thing. Like I found the most efficient way to heal a knee or an ankle or whatever it is. And the same concept comes with these kinds of life experiences and stuff like that. The only reason why I know is because I've lived them. I felt the pain myself. I beat myself up enough times where I can cut through the crap, if you will, and I can figure out, hey, dude, this is what a person needs to do. Again, you have to own the gift before you can give it away. And when you give it away, man, it's such a joy, and it's like the juice in my life. I feel like, man, if I could give this to somebody and help them out, you know, the money is just a side effect. It's a byproduct of living a happy, healthy, stress-free, free of the least amount of attachments as you can, man. It's a wonderful feeling. I mean, that's what true leveraging of thoughts and actions really is. Sorry, I mean.
No, that's awesome. I mean, I can listen. You can go on. But so I got two last things in wrapping up here. So, based upon, you know, doing the show and, you know, listening to other episodes, who would you like to see me get on the show for you to listen to?
Man, that's a good question. Let's see here. So you like to talk to just any business owner?
Anybody who's interesting, you know, anybody who actually personifies this is what I do for a living, but it doesn't make me the person that I am.
Right, absolutely. I have a guy that seems pretty cool. His name is Gustavo Dantas, and then also my professor. You can try him. His name is Paul Nava, and they both do jiu-jitsu, and so you can kind of see. It's pretty cool. Like, there's a whole different mindset, and again, it's like about being present and, you know, pushing your body past its points that you think that you couldn't get past. You know, it's when somebody's trying to choke you out is that you learn a lot about yourself. You know, like, how far can I go from this point? I'm dead tired, and how do I get out of this? How do I just stop thinking and just start reacting?
It's amazing what the body can do physically if you remove the mind.
Yeah, you just don't know until you try it. You know.
Yeah.
So it's quite an interesting experience, and that would be interview those guys, you know.
I'll reach out to those guys. So, in wrapping up, how can people get in touch with you? How can people contact you if they have questions or anything else?
Yeah, if you have any questions or anything, you can call our office at 480-491-7241. I have a Facebook. It's Global Chiropractic. We're in Tempe. You can also check out my website, globalchiropracticaz.com. Yeah, man. I see, the thing is I have a ton of really cool, really free resources. And again, and we've talked about this before, like my marketing, at first it used to be like, I'm going to give this out or I'm going to entice people to come in. And now my mindset's totally shifted. It's like, I think that this is really cool and I'm going to put it out there. And it's not with the intention to attract patients in my office so I can make money. The intention is like, dude, I think this is a really cool thing, and I think people would love to know this or learn this, or if they tried it on, it'd be really cool. And the business and people coming into it is just a side effect, and it's not a cause and effect relationship for me.
Right.
It's like being fast and really pumped up, you know?
Yeah, it's, like a friend of ours, Jay Bears, he wrote the book called Utility. It's utility marketing, where you give away as much as as much knowledge or expertise that you have for free without expecting anything in return, because what's going to happen in turn is they're going to remember where they got that information at some point, whether it's them or a family member or whomever.
Right. Yeah.
So.
And it just pumps me up, right? And again, it's about the resonation of you, like what juices you up. I mean, if you're giving out a bunch of content and it pisses you off, dude,
stop.
Stop. Just stop, right? Just don't do it anymore then, right? If that's the way you feel about it, do not do it. Only give it away if you're jazzed about it, you're pumped up, and it makes you feel good. Then you can continue to do it. I mean, otherwise, just don't talk about it, don't complain about it, because it's not going to help you in what you want to accomplish there.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks for being a guest. Again, if you want to learn more about Dr. Steve, you can globalchiropracticaz.com. He's here in Tempe, Arizona.
Boom.
And you can, as you can see, he's an excitable guy. So, no, thanks for taking the time for being on the show. It was good to connect and actually formally sit down and talk to you about this stuff. So I really appreciate your time.
Hey, and what's really cool, this none of this was I asked you, hey, what were the topics, and you're like, I'm not telling you, and I was like, I'm even more pumped up because I want to see what happens. I produce, man.
Yeah, so here we are.
So thanks for listening, everyone. I hope we helped you out in some way, and contact me or Greg if you had any questions about anything, and we'd be more than willing to help out because we like to give. We're gifters.
Yep, that's right. So, all right. Well, thanks for your time.
All right, man.
All right,
thanks.
Talk to you later. Bye.
All right.
Well, there you have it, Dr. Steven Enriquez. He's definitely an energetic, fiery guy, and I know that he's super passionate about helping people, and he's helped me tremendously, stay active and stay in shape, give me good advice about nutrition and different things like that. And it's interesting how, we always talk about on the show, like, you are not your job, but it's interesting, and it really, really stands out here in speaking with Steve, was Steve, everything that makes Dr. Steve who he is, translates into his practice, and his personality is in every single part of his practice. So, Steve, it was great having you on the show. Thank you so much. I think you dropped so much knowledge and so many truth bombs and some eye-opening pieces of information. Even to me, it was awesome. So thank you so much for being on the show. Again, you can contact him at globalchiropracticaz.com. And thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We really appreciate you. And stay tuned. Next week, we're going to have our special guest, author, teacher, baseball player, baseball coach, Fox Buyer from New Jersey. So hope to see you then. Thanks. Take care.